They confirmed that in 2003, before Epstein and Maxwell's crimes were known, Wasserman and his then wife flew on a Clinton Foundation humanitarian trip aboard Epstein's plane. It also found out that this was his only interaction with Epstein, and shortly after, he exchanged the publicly known emails with Maxwell. LA28 said in a statement that, quote, based on these facts, as well as the strong leadership he has exhibited over the past 10 years, Mr. Wasserman should continue to lead LA28 and deliver a safe and successful games.
When the FBI confirms reports of elite cannibalism and child exploitation rings and the people implicated walk free, what the fuck do we do about it? The latest Epstein documents, all 3.5 million of them, they're freaking disturbing. And they're also proof that the most powerful people on this planet live by completely different rules than you and me. We're talking about systematic abuse at the highest levels and zero accountability. We've got a web of drug traffickers and one bitch in jail, and a whole lot of sycophantic silence from the people who are supposed to protect us. So when institutions fail us this catastrophically, we have to make a choice. Do we shrug and scroll past, or do we harness our collective power and actually do something about it? And this question is why I'm stoked to bring you a conversation today. Real quick, I'm Lauren Parishra. Please take a moment to subscribe. We currently have a lead on Katie Miller, who is the wife of Stephen Little Bitch Miller. If you're not familiar, he's the white nationalist from Santa Monica, and he's behind all of this ICE terror. So every like, every sub, every comment is an FU to Katie and Stephen Little Bitch Miller. We got to maintain our lead. It takes all of us. This is why I'm stoked to bring you a conversation today with Ken Casey from the Dropkick Murphys, legendary punk rock band who's been a part of the resistance since day one. Punk music is inherently Antifa. And here's the thing, Ken and the band, they were the first to walk away from Wasserman, and it cost them. They were with their agents for years, and they did it anyway. And Ken's gonna tell us who didn't. We're going to talk about what it means for the people who didn't walk away, who stayed silent, and the people who were full of shit. And also that this is probably not the last we are going to see of these powerful people in positions of power across all industries, but especially entertainment, where I came from and where Ken currently lives and makes his music. What really happens behind the scenes when your career is on the line?
Sure.
Obviously, punk rock legends, punk is inherently part of the resistance. You've been a part of the resistance for as long as you've been making music. Tell me about this. We're all sitting here idly watching as Epstein, just all this terrible shit keeps coming out. I know in Hollywood, we've known that there's been mumblings of Casey Wasserman's involvement with Epstein. We've seen the photos previously, but now that this latest information came out, like, what was your initial reaction to that? Did you know? Did it feel like, okay, we've heard this, but now this is like real and it's validated? And like, tell me about that kind of journey with the drop.
Sure. So we don't run in those kind of circles where we hear rumors or anything. We heard it by seeing it in the news. We've never met Casey Wasserman himself. We were with our agents for 15, 20 years, and their agency got bought out by Wasserman, so they kind of got taken into that. And we were blindsided, and I imagine probably a lot of the people working there were blindsided too. And I guess it comes down to this. It's like you mentioned, resistance. We've been speaking up our whole career about the powerful and the wealthy and standing up for working people. And now you come down to, I guess, what, we all knew they were screwing everyone for money and all this. But then when you come down to like sexual abuse and child sexual abuse, it's like, if that doesn't unite us all, if that doesn't make people take a stand, nothing will. So if we've been taking a stand about far smaller things, we felt like we needed to be, first to I actually think we were the first to leave. We didn't try to make too much, we didn't want to like.
Yeah, you did it rather silently, right?
Yeah. We just, because we didn't want to be like virtue signaling either, you know what I mean? So we just left. And everyone just needs to look at how these other countries are handling it. People are immediately being prosecuted, losing their positions of power. But in America, this guy still might run the Olympics, So, we just try to do our small part to lead the way and, take a stand.
And like, how long did it take you and the bandmates to make that decision when you had that initial information?
About an hour.
What happens to artists who are staying silent on this?
Well, listen, there's a lot of artists that are staying silent on this. There's a lot of artists that have just stayed silent on Trump and MAGA in general. And I think the idea in their mind, and you know, the feedback I've gotten off the record from musicians is they just, oh, I don't want to deal with the target on my back and MAGA trolls and dividing our audience, and we'll just keep our head down and hope it blows over. We all know it ain't blowing over, and so you better speak into that microphone while you still have the chance to speak into a microphone. That's the way we look at it. So, but I think there's everything from fear to greed, keeps people from speaking out.
What would you say to like more emerging artists that are newer to the space from legends such as yourself on like making the right call now?
I think it's one of those things where you'll look to anybody who's not speaking out, you'll look back and you'll have a lifetime of regret that you didn't. When you get high schools walking out and whatnot, that's when there's a real power. You know what I mean? Because I'm sure a lot of those kids that are walking out of their schools, their own parents might not agree with what they're doing. So that takes a lot of courage. And you see a lot of these protests in deep red areas, and it's like the tide is turning, the sentiment is turning. But obviously, none of that matters if if we don't vote these people out, and who knows if the way it's going, if the elections will even be fair and free by the time we get there.
I often think like who benefits from our silence if we're not participating or if people are like stick to music. What do you say to those type of trolls?
Yeah, I mean, I have 3 children, you know what I mean, and I even say to my own kids, it's like, I'll be all right, right? Like I have 30 years of, well, a lot more than 30 years of working and saving, and so if we're going to come into this technocratic slave society where AI's taking all our jobs, and Peter Thiel and everyone has us on surveillance and decides what our stipend will be, like that's probably, I'll probably be all right, you know what I mean, because like the people of my generation, maybe we own a home and stuff already, but like my children's generation, what's going to happen to them?
And like what I think about too is how badly the institutions have failed us. Like, this is a catastrophic failure by our highest levels of leadership. There's no, like, they're essentially the Trump files, the Trumpstein files from what we've been seeing. And all these systems of power continue to protect themselves. We have one woman in prison and a whole lot of enablers running free. Like, because this is something I think about a lot, like, how many other industry executives, leadership people, powerful people in entertainment and all industries have these sketchy connections that we don't know about?
Well, you start to think, I mean, it can really send you down the rabbit hole of like, whoa, how, does this go back to connected to everything, back to,
Yeah.
9/11, and then, the Patriot Act. So, saying like, how far does this all go back with Epstein and his connections? And you go back to like the start of the slow creep in of our rights of the Patriot Act and all that. I mean, it can really drive you crazy because, yeah, they've been talking about, QAnon and all that, a global cabal of global elites. It's ironic that it appears that the cabal of global elites started the rumors about the cabal of global elites. I don't know how they didn't think that might come back and
And the outrage
bite
just
them.
doesn't seem to be proportioned this time around either.
Yeah. And keep
So,
in mind, we haven't even seen still millions. Like, if we think it's bad now, one, we haven't seen fully redacted files, and two, we haven't even seen a huge what's in those ones that they haven't released yet. Oh, God only knows. So it's terrifying times. But as someone, the government will burn to the ground if we release everything. Good, burn it to the ground. This is the difference between Democrats, or no, not even Democrats. This is the difference between human beings and MAGA. Burn it to the ground. If you're in it, you should go to jail. Like, and getting back to Trump's statement when he said, when he first started running, I could shoot someone on Fifth Ave and get away with it. Well, I guess he could double down to even more. I could be outed as a sexual, predator, child molester, and get away with it. So
What would you tell your fans about getting started, speaking up, showing up, believing survivors? Like, what are some rallying cries you have to them?
I think what's amazing is I think that the majority of the Dropkick Murphys fan base is very I like to think of them as, empathetic people who are knowledgeable to what's going on, and whether we try to educate them or not, they are. But I would say that, like, whatever you think you're doing, do more. Not just sharing something on social media. Really go out to those protests. I think sometimes people get that attitude of like, well, if millions of people are showing up, how does me showing up add to it? But it does, because and I do think somehow we're along the way, like the No Kings protests and all that stuff that is showing the dissatisfaction of America and showing that, like, the tides are turning. But I do think we need to, like, somehow direct that energy into more of like an actual point, instead of meeting on a Saturday, marching and going home. I don't know whether we need to, like, sit in and not go home.
Any last words, Ken? Thank you so much for
Yeah,
your time.
thank you for
Thank you for what
helping
you're
us.
doing. Here
Yeah,
to help
thank
in
you.
any way possible. So reach out at any time. And yeah, anything else you want to add?
Yeah, just thank you for helping us amplify our voice, and yeah, and continue to request other people to come out and use their platforms, and let's all unite over the Epstein situation, because if that doesn't do it, nothing's gonna.
For real.